Om Tare Tu Tare Tu Re Soha. Om Tare Tu Tare Tu Re Soha. Om Tare Tu Tare Tu Re Soha. Om Tare Tu Tare.
So welcome, everyone. Yeah. So in these meditations that we've been covering, and our presentation is to explore them and then to invite everyone to take some time during the week to bring them into their life, maybe do the meditation, but just see how they apply in your life or not. And having said that, we always need to make absolutely sure that we're not just taking teachings and that that's the way it is. That's not how it works. Here's some teachings. Do they hold up? Is it true? Not true? Does it apply to me? Doesn't apply to me? There's no real progress in blind faith. There's progress if I challenge something, question it, understand it, and have a realization about it that I can apply. And so the Buddha always said, you have to test this stuff, you have to check it. And one of the great meetings at the time of the Buddha was when he was traveling and giving teachings, and the group came out and said, a lot of people come by and tell us they have the way, they have the path, why should we trust that your teachings are the correct ones? He said, you shouldn't. You shouldn't. You should test them. It's on you to decide if they're good or not, if they're applicable or not. And so that's just core. It's just core. It's really hard to extend ourselves, to train our minds, to engage in a process if we're all willy-nilly about, yeah, it might be true, maybe not true. I'm not going to push very hard when things get difficult or challenging. I'll just pick something else that's easier. So this is really building the foundation, right? We do have this life. What's the meaning and purpose of it for us? What does it offer us? We have it for a limited time. Death is certain, time of death uncertain. What's really relevant? And then for those who have a belief or understanding in rebirth, what's going to go on beyond this life is how we live this life, our karmic imprints, right? These habits, these tendencies. And so for most Buddhists, what they're trying to do is use this life in a way that if I don't wake up in this life, I'm on a trajectory to continue beyond this body. So what really matters is how I live. Now, if you're not Buddhist and you're a human being who's sort of just materialist, we're made of matter, this is a brain, it does all this stuff. Guess what matters at the time of death? Well, how you lived your life, And so it's like, oh, okay, what matters is, was my life meaningful? Do my loved ones know they're loved? Was it fulfilling? Do I have regrets? And so whether we are a human being of materialist view, matter, we're going to find that most of all this is the same practice. What is meaningful for me? Am I cultivating those habits and tendencies that support the life I want to live, the person I want to be? And at the time of my death, can I die without regret, fearlessly? And if you believe in rebirth, you're going to have that same viewpoint. Am I cultivating the qualities that are meaningful, that are important? And at the time of my death, am I ready to go fearlessly, knowing, I've used it well? So up to this point, everything, whether we're at any of the four motivations, someone who wants to live a human life and be less stressed, more joyful, more resilient, and live with meaning and purpose, good. If you're at the first motivation within the traditional three, which is basically, I want to at least just have a good next life. Not a bad motivation. I want to third, no, what's typically a second, but we present as the third, is that we can achieve nirvana. We can be free. We can become an arhat. Or the next motivation would be a bodhisattva, full Buddhahood, help all sentient beings. So we may be at any of these levels. Human want to have a life that's more resilient, more joyful, more balanced, has meaning and purpose, all the way up to full Buddhahood. And pretty much all these practices, align so far, kind of until today. So I'm giving this big sort of overview. And so the traditional teaching at this point is, I've meditated on the rare and precious life. This is an incredible opportunity. I see its value, whether it's all the seeds have ripened for full awakening, teachers have been available, I'm ripe for it, or the conditions have ripened for me to really use the resources of my life in a way that's meaningful, has purpose, all good. And I don't know how long I'll have it. Don't know how long these conditions will ripen. We had a pandemic show up. People weren't thinking about that. We don't know. Don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. Don't know who's going to call you tomorrow. Don't know if this body will be here tomorrow. Don't know if our friends or mentors will be here tomorrow. Now, intellectually, we know that. But do we really know that? I kind of think you're going to hang out tomorrow. And so the meditations to really bring to mind real clear, that's a reality. And then with that sense of awareness, I'm not going to waste today. I am going to use today while I have it to be connected in a way that's most meaningful. And so if today's my last day, I'm good with that, it's okay. So that's the point we got to, and we just did the last week on impermanence, noticing impermanence, noticing my thoughts are impermanent, my feelings are impermanent, this body's impermanent, everything's changing moment to moment, and this is not the same body as before. And really understanding that not only are things impermanent, and it's not just the end of something, but it's the beginning of something, right? We're always becoming. We're always becoming. Yeah, there's a lot we can grow and nurture here. We're always becoming. And we can be a participant in who we become and how we become. And so that was last week. And so now traditionally at this point, this is where you're supposed to get scared. So preparing for refuge, they typically teach fear and faith. So fear would be, I'm going to waste this life. And so for me, I think that's a good enough fear, but they're going to go a lot further and present, if I lived my way, this life in ways that created a lot of unwholesome karma, my next life will be in one of the three lower realms. And I find this the least productive teaching for a Western mind. It's not suitable to our minds. It's very good for a Tibetan mind. And the distinction I'm going to put here, and some of you have been students for a long time, you've heard this. If you're a Tibetan and you're born in the Himalayas, and rebirth is natural. It's like water. Everybody has rebirth. That's of course, and I know that my Buddha nature is who I am. I know that, underneath all this, I'm okay. There's nothing broken here. And that this human form I'm caught up in, it's just a bunch of afflictions. And but it's not who I am. And so there's this, wondrous thing that you are much more than this body, and you have many rounds of life, and the conditions change, and they're pretty happy people even in difficult times. Not a big deal. Westerners have original sin, right? Okay, we came in sinners, we screwed up, we have a lot to make up for. We are highly susceptible to self-critical minds, to not being good enough, and it's just pervasive in literally every workshop I've ever done over these bunch of years. The big struggle is being kind to ourselves, and so with that kind of reflecting, I'm back in my Catholic Church days, and of course with Buddhism it's kind of nice because it's temporary. You don't stay in hell forever. It just that goes, and you can be a human again or something else. But yeah, it's this cycle. So there's that. But traditionally, and I don't want to. I do want to make sure the tradition is taught appropriately. I also want always for us to utilize the practices that are most beneficial for our lives and for our minds and for reality and for our practice. So typically at this point, if you've read in the book, you'll see these sort of meditations that, if I create unwholesome karma and these habits and tendencies, the next life will be in one of these lower realms. And they're very difficult, very painful. So the 3 lower realms would be animals, hungry ghosts, and hell realms. For those of you, just in case you don't know, all 6 realms, human, suras, gods, goddesses, and there's heaven realm. So those are 3 higher humans, the suras, and then this sort of god, heaven type realm. Beneath human, animals, hungry ghosts, hell realms. Having said that, it's no other place. We don't go somewhere. From a Buddhist perspective, this is all how we're experiencing our lives and our minds. So 2 of us could be in the very same environment, and one of us having a terrible time and one of us having a wonderful time. Right? And nirvana is not a different place. I just experience all this differently. Samsara nirvana, I don't go to nirvana. I realize nirvana. And so that's an important context. It's not like, taking you out of this body, you go to this place. That how I'm experiencing this life, how I experience people, is a result of my karmic imprints, the conditioning I have, and it's pretty much why I like Brussels sprouts. I have a lot of conditioning around that and good karma around Brussels sprouts. Some people don't like Brussels sprouts, I don't know. Matter of fact, my friend Ty does not like Brussels sprouts. Bad karma, I guess. So, and if we recognize then that how I'm experiencing the world is always subjective, right? I find a Brussels sprout delicious. Same Brussels sprout, Thai, not delicious, okay? Delicious is not in the Brussels sprout, right? So I'm experiencing it differently. Some people admire our current president, some people do not. Very strong feelings one way or another, right? And there are some people that I find funny that people don't find funny. There's a couple of people that actually find my jokes funny. Few, but they exist. And others that don't. And so, as I start to understand my subjective experience, I start to understand that I'm creating imprints that give rise when certain phenomena comes in contact with me. And then I find that person attractive or interesting or annoying or whatever. And someone else finds them just the opposite. So there's this experience that's subjective, and I have certain reactions and certain things I crave I like more than others. But if we look at understanding karma, one very simple way that's not mystical at all is habits and tendencies. What I think, say, and do a lot, I'll think, say, and do a lot. I'll just keep reinforcing it. It's kind of just, that's how I am. I'll talk about certain things. I'll believe that's the way things are, and these are the things I like, and those are the things I don't like. We build habits within ourselves. So if we do something in a routine, kind of just becomes how we keep doing things. So one aspect of karma is simply that what I water grows. What I do a lot, I kind of get stuck doing. And I reinforce my beliefs about certain kinds of people, and and then I look for all the ways that reinforces that belief. And but I don't look at all the things that don't. I don't even see that, So, we have a big role in shaping how we experience the world. And so if you just think about karma in that very simple way of cause and effect, I'm creating causes to be a morning person, for example. I was never a morning person. Hardest thing I did all day. Nowadays I get up at 4 a.m. every day, so one might call me a morning person, but I wasn't before. But if you start doing it every day, then after a while, you become a morning person. Right? Cause, result. Nothing magical here. If you want to learn a language like Tibetan, if you study it, you practice it, you're creating a cause, at some point you'll speak Tibetan. Nothing, And so understanding this is I am a big participant in how I experience people, places, things, how I create habits in my life. So I have all this conditioning. For someone who has a understanding and belief in multiple lives, we're going to notice that you have come into this life already preconditioned in lots of ways. Some people are very musical, some people are less musical, some people have certain talents and interests. Even twins might have different interests and different abilities and different talents. The genes, same family, different interests. And so some kids, are just, very different than you might expect. And there's prodigies and so forth. And if you're not ready for the life before this life, then you're going to look at just from a developmental psychology, were we loved, were we cared for, were our needs met, were we encouraged to try things or not, were our parents patronizing, do they have contempt, do they have openness, and we're going to find that we're going to be shaped by our experiences and how I deal with people and things and what support I got. And so again, we're being conditioned and ripened. And if you grow up in France, you might think snails taste good. I don't know. Grow up in Alabama, may not be interested. So this conditioning is taking place all the time. And so there we get into the conditioning that we create that is going to lead to a more pleasant outcome. And that begins the laws of karma, which basically say things that you do that create a pleasant outcome are wholesome. Things that you do that create an unpleasant experience, unwholesome. So there's not a big judgment like right, wrong, or any of that. It's just, this is all messy. I don't always do things in a healthy way. I haven't always had good teachers or good role models. I'm trying to be happy. You're trying to be happy. We're all trying to find our way. And we're going to do some things trying to be happy. Some will work out, some won't work out. It's not that anyone's bad. It's we're just confused. And so I do a lot of things to be happy that actually undermine my happiness, right? I'm seeking temporary pleasure rather than long-term self-worth. And so I engage in these outer activities, these 8 worldly concerns, so I can be happy temporarily. But that happiness rarely lasts very long. And then something else happens. And then I worry, and then I have stress. And so whether we go back to Aristotle, whether we go back to ancient wisdom traditions, whether we go back to just our current upbringing, we're going to be taught that virtue is the key to being happy. It's in all the books. It's in all the lessons. It's in all the stories as a kid. And it's not in our culture at all. Our culture is, if you have this and you achieve that and you get that, and I keep coming back to, if you just have the right thread count on your sheets, yeah, you got it made. And so we keep trying to be happy through all these things, which can't provide lasting. It provides temporary pleasure. We're just confused. And so we do a lot of things. We worry about things and losing things and people and friends. And we don't understand that it's not the people, the things, the friends, the stuff we do. It's why we do it that matters. You know, do I have friends in my life because I want to be a good friend, because I'm connected as a human being, and we want to do things that are meaningful, help each other? Or do I want friends because I'm lonely and I don't want to be alone, and I want to be with this group and not with that group? And do I want people to look at me in a certain way? Do I want them to know I donated X amount of money and have my name on a building, you know? Or do I just want people in the building to have an education, right? You know, so it's really why I'm doing what I'm doing, not what I am doing. And that, well, if I talk long enough, we don't even have to get into that other part. So, motive. What's my motivation? So of all the activating factors of karma, motivation is the most important. Why I'm doing what I'm doing is more important than what I'm doing. And so it doesn't mean what I'm doing is not, it's just the most important weight of any karmic imprint. Why am I doing what I'm doing? And often we don't even know why we're doing most of the stuff we're doing. We don't even know we're doing it because we're kind of distracted. But if I can start being very clear about my motivations, having wholesome motivations, loving kindness, compassion, you know, things of this nature, then anything that happens it's going to be virtue. And so as we water, nurture, and grow that, then we're going to have different experiences in life. And so, for example, in this very same life, as we cultivate a greater understanding of the suffering of others, compassion, understanding of interdependence, you're going to find you have a lot fewer annoying people in your life. But when I cultivate more judgments and more blame and more finger pointing, I'm going to find a lot of annoying people in my life. And none of you have changed. I'm just experiencing different based on the attitudes and perspectives that I water, nurture, and grow. And so that's, you know, a real, you know, testable thing here that I can do. So if I start recognizing and looking at other people's struggles and understand that they're like mine and they're doing different things, but maybe they didn't have some of the care that I've received and they're struggling, you know. It's amazing how I am less annoyed by them. So how I attend to people becomes different. So in this life, we get this opportunity to be an active participant in shaping our experience based on our motivations and our activities, and we condition our mind and experience. So as I understand that that's happening, the world I get to live in now, and I'll just speak my own personal experiences, I have much less struggle, much less suffering, much less judgment. And generally, I'm a lot happier than I used to be. And apparently most of the world didn't change, you know, right? I know. So what's changing is me. What's changed is my experience and how I see and attend to people and what I water. And so if we start understanding that, then we can start to see, the real cause for my Brussels sprouts to be delicious is the wholesome activities I've engaged in my life. That when I meet with the conditions of what we call Brussels sprout, I find delicious. Somebody else finds not delicious. Their karmic imprints are different, that's all. So if we carry this understanding and we kind of reflect on it, and I think it's important to reflect on it in our day-to-day life, what are the attitudes, thoughts that I am nurturing, and are they based in reality or not? Because we don't want to be Pollyanna, right? That's not helpful at all. Somebody says, well, it's all wonderful. It's not. There's pain, there's hardship, there's difficulties, there's real malevolent things happening in this world. And so it's not turning a blind eye to those, it's recognizing how do we show up for those things? How do we engage with them in ways that are productive and skillful, that can reduce suffering and cultivate well-being? And there we have the opportunity to be much more powerful and speak in ways that people can hear us when I'm not calling them names, but skillfully bringing up what's being done is harmful. And accountability from loving kindness instead of anger. And so, as I nurture these attitudes and engage in what we've been learning around wholesome activities, the body, speech, and mind, understanding interdependence, understanding, the real enemy is so much as my mind. What I'm attending to, what my mind's worrying about, what my mind is projecting, versus coming back to the moment I'm in a moment that has an opportunity for me to grow, to understand, to be helpful. I've never found a moment that doesn't offer that. I found a lot of times in my life I'm unwilling to take that offering. And so, this understanding can help us then move towards where they'll be presenting here is meditation as well. Am I cultivating the qualities, attitudes, and habits that support the life I want to live, the kind of person I want to be, the experiences I'd like to have? If so, whether I die today or not, okay, I'm good today, and if there's a next life, I'll get to continue that, because I am continuously creating these patterns. Likewise, if I engage in unwholesome activities, greed, anger, hatred, division, harm, those get reinforced, and the mind stream is very unhappy and unsatisfied and suffering. And then next life, we'll wind up with that mind. And then that mind would fall into these categories of what we call lower realms. And so, I think we can see this in human beings in our lifetime. If we just look at a hell realm, if I was in Gaza right now, I'd be in a hell realm. And that's happening right now. Being trafficked, I'd be in a hell realm. Hungry ghosts. Hungry ghosts are people that cannot be satisfied, like a hungry ghost. The analogy is they have this skinny throat. They can't really eat enough, and they're always hungry, right? So you look around at people in this world who don't know contentment, who are constantly in need of something, constantly in power or money or sex or drugs or whatever. And so there's just no understanding of contentment. And they can't be happy except for a moment. And so I think we look around, we can see people are hungry ghosts. Matter of fact, this device here is creating a lot of them. And I keep hitting on that book, the Dopamine Nation, where she's pointing out that every time people hit this or the email or the thing or the like, it's a dopamine hit and distraction. And what happens is that depletes our dopamine cycle, so then we have a dopamine deficit. So people are uncomfortable when they put that away. They're like, where's my phone? Where's my thing? You know, there's a deficit. There's like, I need, and there's a dependency. So this world's creating lots of that, and you know, started probably with television. And I remember as a kid, man, I couldn't wait to get home from school and turn on that thing, escape. And so then, you know, we're being often hijacked by a need for distraction or something. And then when we work hard all day, our reward is distraction. I suffer, I struggle, or even, you know, did my meditation, all zenned out. Okay, that's over. Let me go, you know, get distracted. Fascinating. So just understanding this process then of, you know, what am I watering, nurturing, growing? What is the condition that's ripening in my mind? And how I get to experience things. And am I a victim to the conditioning and the karma, like a leaf being blown around in the wind, what to worry about, what to fear, what to feel insecure about, what I feel I need to be okay, and being driven by the worldly concerns, or recognizing that, you know, you're already okay. And I get to be an active participant in how I perceive and engage in the world, and water and nurture things that actually give rise to well-being. Yeah.
I have a little confusion. I understand the upper realms, the animal realm, even the hungry ghost realm.
Mm-hmm.
To think that all the people in Gaza right now have created conditions for them to be there in a previous life, that doesn't make sense to me.
So, if you think about just, and we'll just take humans, okay? And we didn't want to get in the reality of there's over 1 billion other universes, and you can be born in all kinds of things. There's so much we don't know about all that. But the idea that human beings could be selfish and self-centered and nationalistic kind of is pretty normal, right? And it's not that people who are maybe living in the hell realm, it's never that I myself created all this, right? I'm born into a country, I'm born into certain situations, I'm trying to be okay. And karmically, if you were to go from a Buddhist perspective through realms that have been around since beginningless time, and all the different forms of beings, that conditions could ripen for you might be in Gaza to get the last bit of negative karma ripened so you're awakened. So why someone's there, we don't know. But if we look at just civilization in our lifetime, history, humanity, since the dawn of time, people have been killing each other. Matter of fact, we're in one of the less violent eras of history, which is kind of shocking. So technically, it's less suffering overall. But you know, we've had World War II. We've had, you know, just the whole wiping out almost of the whole Jewish race, and Stalin killed more in his country than the Holocaust, which very few people know. And Stalin used to say, you kill one person, it's a tragedy. You kill 1 million, it's a statistic. So that mind has been around. So it's kind of a natural playing out of samsara. And humans, out of their human mind, as long as there's been humans around, they've been conquering, been sticking their flag up, been killing the other person, been promoting their power, promoting their culture, promoting their spiritual belief, killing others for it. That's just been playing out. Yeah.
So I'm thinking about the stories of some of the highly realized Tibetan lamas imprisoned in Tibet,
Mm-hmm.
being beaten. And we know the story of the one who almost lost his compassion, and that was the greatest bliss.
Yeah.
Couldn't there be someone of that level of realization in Gaza not seeing it, not experiencing it in the same way as others?
Sure.
So it's not a given, it's just being in Gaza, you're
Right. No, I was just saying as a general thing.
okay.
Yeah.
I just,
Yeah.
I'm seeing it. Sam's question, thinking about that.
Can all of you online hear that? Or, okay, some people know, some people, yeah. Yeah, so just, Laura was making a point that, again, not everybody in Gaza is necessarily in a hell realm. You could be in Gaza and be of a very different state of mind. But of course, most people there are suffering and are in hell realms, right? So, clarity statement is, in general, most people in Gaza would be in a hell realm right now, right? Beyond anything I can imagine personally. But there can also be people there, especially people of virtue, that see the humanity and are helpful and are doing, really incredible things. And there can also be, some fairly awake people who are not experiencing it in the same way that we would. So that's true, yeah. But it's also true that it's not just us, right? Any negative thing that happens to us isn't just because I did a bad thing, okay? As I mentioned, if I get hit with a baseball bat and someone robs me and I lose brain activity and, all that. So this terrible thing happens to me. It's not just because I'm a bad person I created cause for that. Karma doesn't work like that. There's a lot of karma involved. For example, the conditions that there's that whole other person in their life and their parents and their life and my parents and their life and the situation and who even made the baseball bat. And, you start putting together everything that had to happen for someone to hit me with a baseball bat, including someone who might need some money or whatever their afflictions are. You're going to see that for any one instant of this harmful effect to me, there's a lot of karma by a lot of people that created that condition for that karma to ripen. So it's not like someone gets something bad happen, they're a bad person. Like, it doesn't work at all. We're all in this together. And whether someone decided to put a stoplight in or not might have an impact on whether you live or die based on who built the cars, who built the roads, So there's a massive unfolding of layers of karma. What is uniquely ours is how we experience it. So some people can experience a traumatic event and kind of come out okay, and other people, it just devastates them, right? And so how we're experiencing what is unfolding is going to have a lot more to do with our personal karma. But, all of us are subject to get, we all just lived through a pandemic. We all are subject to the, getting hit by a drunk driver or whatever. This is samsara. And so in samsara, is back to your point, is driven by the three poisons of a misperception of self that's grasping to this and avoiding that. So classically called ignorance, attachment, and aversion, or ignorance, anger, and greed. And that, out of my misunderstanding, this is what's going to bring me happiness. So I do a lot of things for that. this is going to bring me suffering. So I do a lot of things to avoid that. And I'm a very me, center of the world universe, trying to create things to make me happy as an independent person, which creates all that, which creates wars, which creates, all these things. And so that's the nature of the wheel of samsara at its core. How to break that is to break the misunderstanding of independence. I'm not independent. Everything about me is dependent on. There's nothing independent about any word I use, anything I do. It's been taught to me. It's arisen because of others. Everything I get to do, I'm interdependent. But as an independent person, I'm trying to control you, get what I want, do these things, those people, and that gives rise to this wheel of samsara, which gives rise to the 6 realms, which is driven by the 12 links of dependent origination. So, yeah, that's the nature of this conditioned existence of samsara, suffering. So let's get to Chris. Got a hand up here. I love that you guys have question and dialogue.
Thanks for the teaching tonight. The nature versus nurture thing, and nervous system and emotional regulation and windows of tolerance. That's all good stuff. But my question is more on this, nirvana not being a place, right?
Yeah.
It's kind of a state of being. I don't know if that's the proper term, but so theoretically, a sentient or a consciousness could be in Gaza and have moments where they're in nirvana. Is that correct?
Sure, yeah. Line being, if they physically, their emanation body was there, they would experience differently than you and I would, yeah.
Okay, so it's a state of mind rather than a place, or state. I don't know, mind is the word, but state,
quality of mind. Yeah.
Quality of mind. And then the second comment is Paul didn't know how to raise a hand up, and he's got a question for you.
Okay, all right. Now that was easy, Chris. All right. Paul.
Okay, and I found it right after that. So I actually used it. I've got 2 questions on this, and it's not just intellectual curiosity. It's tied into. I've been doing some of this Lammerton meditation, and thinking about helping all sentient beings, trying to get myself separated, lately very unsuccessfully, away from responding to negative things with anger, which I seem to be doing a lot lately the past couple of months. But first of all, animals, I don't see animals as a step backward, because my interaction with animals, I've learned a lot from animals.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm just wondering, because they have that as a lower one, I guess, because, we kind of tend to think of ourselves as being above the other animals. But what's really gotten me off on this is watching these tapes of the interaction of human beings and octopuses having what seem to be very recognizable relationships with people in an attempt to get together with them. And that fascinates me. So that's the first question. And the second question is, if you're a hell being or a hungry ghost, how the heck, or even the animals, because it says, well, the animals can't read, basically, or can't, don't get it. How do you get out of that once you're in? That kind of scared me, to be honest with you. When I read it, I was like, holy smokes, this could be a problem. So those are my 2 questions.
Okay, good. Thank you. And first and foremost, I could see you and I hanging out watching animal videos. I get caught up in that. Well, we're learning from them. So yeah, first off, the reason, an animal realm would be a lower realm, number one is, their life. I mean, if you just look at a deer, man, they're always in fear, always on alert, could be eaten at any moment. They don't have a lot of agency in how that, they get to build their surroundings. And so, if you're a dog, you might get an owner that kicks you, you might get an owner that loves you. As a matter of fact, my sister-in-law would argue this point to me to the end, because she was pretty clear her dog was a bodhisattva and, has a better life than any other being she's ever met. And that dog was getting a lot of love, doing pretty well. And so, and it's not unimaginable. A Buddha can manifest in any form, so it could be a dog as well. But the point of it is that, yeah, they don't have agency to develop themselves, to have much choice about their environment. They're really a prisoner of the environment in a whole way that you and I are not. And if you look at all of the animals in general, I mean, wide range, snakes or, frogs or whatever. And what about crickets getting snapped up by a frog? There's some tough stuff there. If you're not that really cool dog that's all loved up on, the kind that gets pampered in that little carrier, you get to see cruising around, maybe some little snackies, some of them know them pretty good. So if we see about what's really the optimal of the six realms is human, because humans have enough suffering to want to do something to change. And they have enough leisure and agency to have the space and time to do it. Mm-hmm. If you get too much good, like heaven realms, you're not motivated to change. Why would you do that? And you got a high thread count, you get some nice stuff delivered to the door. It's all good. I get to go on whatever vacation. Why would I work at changing this? But a regular, human being has enough mental and emotional suffering, struggles, hardships to seek, and then enough agency and opportunity to do something about it. So that's the optimal. It's right in the middle. And then, what was the other one about animals?
How you get out?
How do you get out?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So that's actually pretty easy. And it's not easy to do. It's an easy answer. The karma just wears out. So, that life's going to end, And so karma is ripening and it's gone. So right now, we all have a karma for a human life in this form, but it's going to end, right? It's going to end. So that's the beautiful thing about, and that's what I was making the point. If you're a Christian, you go to hell, it's forever. Buddhist, you go to hell, it's going to wear out at some point, and then you got another shot. Downside, if you go to heaven, that's going to wear out, and there's only one way, you're going down, right? So, because you used up all that karma. So everything is always in a state of change, right? And so basically the karma runs out at some point. And then the other karmic imprints ripen. Oh, okay. We have new opportunities, yeah. Right. They do say that you can help animals and so forth by like reciting mantras around them. There's a lot of like yogis, like my teacher, around any animal, he'd be Om Mani Padme, Om Mani Padme, Om Mani, just sacred sounds, things like that, and blessings. And you have animal blessings, other traditions have them. We used to have them here, right? The UU church used to do animal blessings, right? So, there are some things that people say, because you're planting those imprints, they're getting that experience. It's kind of helpful.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Good question. Okay, we'll go in here and then we'll come back to Alyssa. So, Paul, are you the only one from the here and now today? A couple others? All right. Yeah. But he just nodded his head. All right. Yes.
So you mentioned it's basically to go through around. Like we have to wait until this reincarnation is finished. But from my perspective,
I don't think I said that. No. You don't have to wait.
yeah, like you can switch between the realms during these reincarnation, right?
Mm-hmm.
And like once you get awareness, you're chasing or like you are and how you go through, you can potentially get awakened by starting to change your own perception of reality. And the same thing in the hell realm as well.
Yeah, it would be hard. Did everybody hear that online? So, okay. So just making a point that do you actually need to physically die to experience the different realms or to awaken? And the answer is no, you don't need to do that. But I would say that I don't know that a hungry ghost could awaken. a hungry ghost can move to a different state of mind where they then could awaken, right? And that would make more sense, I think, yeah. But you can awaken right now in this human form, right? So, so those opportunities are available. We don't need to wait for the body to die. And from a traditional Buddhist teaching on karma, though, is there's like karma with a remainder, which means you've awakened, you're in a human body, but that body still needs to go through the whole process of dying, even though you're awake. So you're not really suffering, you know, like what you're pointing out, but you still have this human body that karma needs to go through the thing and ultimately die, but you know, you're okay. Yeah. Okay, Alyssa.
Thank you. So, a question about the upper realms. And so,
You can see how hard I tried to get away from the realm, and this is not working.
yeah,
Go ahead.
no, you're stuck in this one. God realm. So you were just saying that in the heaven realms, well, the only way you can go is down.
Yeah, it's not fun. At
So,
the end, it's not fun.
so that, right. So God realm, I guess they would then have the potential of going down as well.
Yeah, no, they pretty much, that's, yeah. It's described as a very unpleasant realization right at the end. Like, oh my, you know, I've wasted this whole thing. Like it's, you know, all that good karma is gone. So you're going to a lower realm, yeah. But up until that, for a long time, you're living large. You got a nice house in Aspen. It's great. Yeah.
Could you give an example?
What do you mean? So,
Like a realization, like the way that you've lived your life really wasn't as you would have wanted it. Like,
well, you're not working on inner
Really?
development. So if everything's good and wonderful, you know, you just think about people right now who have very few problems, everything's wonderful. They're usually not driven to do inner work and understanding. There are a few, and I find them quite remarkable. But in general, what strives, what creates our search is some suffering, right? We've had to overcome some stuff. We've had some struggle. If you remove all suffering, there's no motivator to do inner work and inner realization. So that's removed. So it's this blissful, wonderful experience beyond measure. And so it's all been delightful up until the karma ultimately wears out. And then they say there's kind of, people start to see, you know, that, yeah, it's going to change. And that's not a pleasant experience. So generally, from a Buddhist perspective, we're not aiming to go to heaven. You know, we're aiming to use a rare and precious human birth to wake up. And there's very little opportunity up there. There is some opportunity.
oh, so
Yeah.
are you saying that these realms, the upper realm is not
No,
that
you don't
quality
want
of
that.
nirvana? Okay, that's where I was confused.
Yeah.
Thank you. Okay.
All these realms are within a conditioned existence, which has karma,
Yeah.
which conditions things. Waking up, you're beyond karma. You're out of this whole thing. Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, Kurt, probably a simple question.
Super simple. This hungry ghost concept, you know, with the way you described it was, you know, this insatiable thirst, right?
Yeah.
Well, I've had that, right? I mean,
Yeah.
as an alcoholic, I mean, you know, that pretty much described it, right? But so was I a hungry ghost, right? And now I'm not, or am I still one? You know what? So how does that work? I'm not trying to play stump the chump. I'm seriously interested.
I was hoping somebody would ask that question, Kurt. Thank you.
So there's multiple layers of ways of working with this. And, you know, there can be the view, which is the one I particularly find most meaningful, that, you know, I'm always in a state of becoming. And there are times in my life where I'm experiencing the world from a view that is very limited, like a hungry ghost. In which case, at those moments, very much, right, I am casting away everything that I care about so I could get drunk or use a drug, right? Have no knowledge of contentment or well-being, right? And I think, you know, from my perspective as a human form, that is one way of really interpreting this. The other way is that literally as this body dies, the whole rest of your next experience would be as a hungry ghost. And sort of the spirit realm thing would be, and there's examples of this, of, you know, really heavy, dense pain and suffering around a house. Things are maybe spirits there that couldn't let go, right? The land of 10,000 Buddhists over in Northern California, incredible place. But it used to be a mental institution. It has all these properties. And one of them was where they did some horrific, you know, the lobotomies and all that shock therapy and stuff. And that building, very dark, very heavy energy. And the monks, the monastics there, you know, they spent years purifying, years of mantras, years of prayers, years to lighten that energy in that space from all that suffering. And you know, they live there now. It's much better. I stayed there for a while with them, but they would tell the story of what they needed to do. And you know, I think you know, what would be ascribed is that suffering of them is still listing there. You know, and so relieving that and bringing love and bringing care to purify. You know, so beyond this life, aspects of you could linger in a real painful way. Ashley.
Yeah, I've speaking of realms, I've heard about Buddha lands. What are those as compared are they similar to a God realm? Or could this earth be transformed into a Buddha land if everyone was enlightened, or?
Yeah, so we always have to come back to these are not different places, in a sense, right? So that's kind of the, you know, Buddha lands are over there. We're in samsara, nirvana some other place. This realm's, you know, and so understanding that as our minds purify, as we attain more clarity, more realization, more awakening, you know, our whole experience of these things change. And understand that that's really the journey of awakening, is understanding ourselves, clearing away the obscurations that limit us and block us, and the configuration of karma that imprisons us. And then we'll see and experience people in different ways. You know, we use concepts like realms as constructs to explain things. But when we get to full like Buddha lands, like you know, these pure lands, I am not trained enough to know about those. So my easy answer to that is that's above my pay grade. Yeah. So I really don't know how those work, because there is pure lands, and like you would want to be in a pure land and have a final sort of little bit to wake up. And Pure Land Buddhism, Chinese, you know, tofu amitama tofu amitama tofu. Yeah, you know, just this mantra of devotion to be born in this pure land where they can then make it all the way to enlightenment. But I have not studied Pure Lands at all, so I'm not trained. I'm barely house trained, let alone Pure Land trained. The whole thing. Gotta stay in my own ballpark, realm. Yeah. So, all right. Well, that's probably a good note to wrap on. We went a little bit, good, rich discussion. But where I want to leave you with, and so the activity for this week, is not necessarily that if I don't live well, I'm going to a hell realm. It's what are you cultivating that allows you growth? And what are the habits and tendencies that limit you, right? So, following the directions, we can see that even in the text that, she's trying to say, well, if you don't believe next life or whatever, you can look around and see people suffering. And so the meditation this week, or the exploration, is what are the qualities and attitudes that I'm cultivating that lead to well-being and growth? And here specifically would be this week, what am I doing that limits me? What is it that creates suffering in my life? What are the types of activities that increase my suffering, my discontent? Like a hungry ghost. What am I doing that creates more hunger instead of well-being? And using this week to kind of think about that. And on a final, to put a point on it, Jetsuma Tenzin Palmo, whom, I just, I think what she says is gold. She says that you don't need to worry about going to a hell realm unless you're pretty much a sadist, So it's not like, okay, you didn't do the water bowls right, or you didn't do this right, and you did this bad karma. Hell realms are people who are sadistic, that create an incredible amount of harm, that take pleasure in it. That kind of mind. So we're probably okay. Right? I'm going to be pretty comfortable there. But we are creating habits and tendencies that shape us. And so what am I doing that really increases my suffering, discontent, and division and anger and hatred versus well-being? And so that's the reflection here this week. And there are ways that we put ourselves in intolerable situations, hell realms. There's ways that we put ourselves in situations where we're always seeking validation or that next thing or something to be okay, hungry ghost. The animal one, maybe it could be a beagle. I don't know, that'd be good. My sister-in-law's dog was a beagle, Bodhisattva. I think she called him Bodhi. Or an octopus, pretty smart one. So, but really understanding that we're creating our way of being, and what are the harmful sort of habits and activities that we want to let go of. So that would be the way I would translate this particular practice. Is our minds as Westerners can get pretty hung up on screwing up and thinking, oh my God, I'm going to hell. And that's not a healthy attitude for anyone. It's much more, I understand what doesn't work for me, so I can do something that does. And that's I would encourage. Okay. So let us now go ahead and dedicate the merit that we have cultivated from our time together. There's a lot of things we could have been doing on a Wednesday night. Could have been learning a hula hoop. I'm going to resist going on that tangent right now, okay? I so want to. But we have chosen to take time to support each other and ourselves by cultivating qualities of compassion and wisdom in our hearts and minds to seek understanding on how to improve ourselves in the world that we live in, how to be of benefit to others. So a great deal of merit and wisdom has been generated from our time together. Let us dedicate this for the benefit of all sentient beings. May they be free of suffering. May the seeds of compassion find their way into their lives. And may we also dedicate this merit for our own continued spiritual growth, that we may ultimately recognize our own Buddha nature and be of greatest benefit to all. And those who care to can join me in the dedication. By this merit may I soon attain the enlightened state of Guru Buddha, that I may be able to liberate all sentient beings from their sufferings. May the precious Bodhi mind not yet born arise and grow. May that born have no decline, but increase forevermore.
Om Tare Tu Tare, Tu Re Soha. Om Tare Tu Tare, Tu Re Soha. Om Tare Tu Tare.